We're glad that you're back with us, but we were so caught up in conversation with Dan already. Welcome back. Yes, welcome back to GMA as we look at something that causes anxiety for many. Tax season and managing your finances all year long. Former weekend GMA anchor and host of the 10% Happier podcast, Dan Harris, has interviewed dozens of leading experts in the psychology of money and joins us now with a few tips. Dan, welcome back. We love you.
Our personal guru, by the way.
Absolutely. Yes. Old man Dan with all the wisdom. Let's start by reassuring everyone that they shouldn't beat themselves up. Financial anxiety and problems are widespread, nothing to be ashamed about, and they are survivable.
Yes. Okay. First of all, I don't want to sugarcoat financial anxiety. It is real. I'm not here to say that your problems are imaginary. But this habit that we have that is culturally ingrained to beat ourselves up does not help. We believe it helps, but actually there's a ton of research to show that something called self-compassion is a much better strategy. What is self-compassion? It's basically the ability to talk to yourself the way you would talk to a good friend. It's basically switching from an inner drill sergeant to an inner coach. A coach doesn't let you off the hook. It doesn't. He or she does not ignore your mistakes. They're just not jerks about it. Okay, so how do you actually do this out in the world? Here's a 3-step process from a great researcher named Kristen Neff. The first is mindfulness. Just to notice, oh, I'm in a shame spiral right now. I'm beating myself up. I can't believe I'm Janae and I spent $700.
I was just going to say, you don't speak nicely to me as a friend. I was waiting for it.
So just to notice, okay, this is happening right now. I'm beating myself up. Second step is to recognize, even though you feel alone, you are not alone. Millions of other people are experiencing this exact same thing right now. Third step, and this is the most important, talk to yourself the way you would talk to a good friend. We all have this capacity.
In the third person.
Yeah, in the third person. Using your own name. Hey, Janae, it's okay, you spent that money. Or I actually use the word dude. Dude, I know you're freaking out right now. You can deal with this.
I love that. And you know, if you're in a relationship, money can really be a big stressor when you're in a relationship.
Of course.
What advice do you have for couples?
I interviewed on my show this woman, Wendy De La Rosa, who's a professor at Wharton, and she has a bunch of tips, and I'll give you 3 of them. The first is to, instead of having the money issue be me against you, because that's the way it normally goes, you're not saving enough or you're spending too much, to make it us against the problem, to mutually agree on what's the problem and what are the goals and proceed from there. That can engender a kind of a team mentality. The second is to choose the right time to talk. I have made the mistake of approaching my wife while she's in the middle of something else and complaining about the Con Ed bill. As you can imagine, that does not go well. So to pick a time and place to, yes, bless that woman, to pick a time and place where everybody's got a low resting heart rate to talk about things at a jointly agreed upon time. And then the third tip is to automate. We now have technology that can automate transfers from checking to savings. We can automate bill payments. If you take automation, it takes decisions out of the game. It reduces frictions. There are fewer things to fight about.
And speaking of partners, the other thing that you say, it's important to understand our own and our partner's money stories. What does that mean exactly?
Okay, so this is where things get really deep, and I think this is really like the fundamental fix. Money is so complicated in all of our lives. We all, and in our culture, we're kind of embarrassed to talk about it. So there's a lot of shame around this, and you really need to understand, like, where do your attitudes come from? And I'll be a little vulnerable here on national television.
So open up.
To look at me, I think most people would say, what does that dude have to worry about? I was a well-compensated news anchor for 20 years here at ABC News. I run a successful business. I was raised by doctors, upper middle class scenario, and yet anxiety about money literally keeps me up at night. It is the #1 thing I worry about. And I felt a lot of shame around that for many years. Who am I with all this privilege to worry about money? And then I started to investigate my family tree. And in my family tree, there is a lot of poverty. And my great-grandfather, for example, was an immigrant to this country in the early 1900s, really hustled in an environment that was quite anti-Semitic, and ended up taking his own life in the family home after losing all of the family's money and being investigated by the FBI.
Wow.
There were actually articles that I found about him. And that manic, fearful energy, we know intergenerational trauma is a real thing. That's in my marrow. And if I can understand that about myself, it takes some of the self-criticism out of the picture. And my wife understanding that about me makes our conversations easier, and me understanding what her history is, that makes our conversations even easier. So this is deep work, but worth doing.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, we are out of time because there's so much more we want to ask you, but we appreciate you being vulnerable. One of my favorite things about you is you always check your privilege, Dan Harris. It is one of your superpowers. Thank you so much for coming here and
Pleasure.
shedding your light.
I keep waiting for the hammer to drop.
I know. I'm going to wait till we're off there. I got you. Appreciate you
Great
so
to see you.
much.
Love you guys.
Pleasure,
Love you
bud.
guys.
And make sure to check out Dan's website, danharris.com, for more. He's got a great newsletter, too, so check that out.